Okay, this is Sue Frederick, and this is our Cultivating a Courageous Heart class through Unity of Phoenix. So let's all close our eyes and take a deep breath. And exhale. And again. And exhale. And this time, let's just lift ourselves up, lifting up to the golden light. That's the divine realm's energy that we have instant access to whenever we simply become aware that we are divine beings. In a heartbeat, we are immersed in that golden loving energy of God consciousness. And in that place of absolute soul to soul connection, where we no longer live in our human stories, our egos, our personalities, our physical selves, and instead our souls lead the way. We're able to connect with each other heart to heart so deeply, knowing that we're all souls on the same journey of evolution, and that this world, this universe is made of love, love consciousness, and that that's what God is. And that each of us has a heart that is more than a physical heart. It is an energetic heart. And when we put our hand in front of it, even we can just feel the energy intensify in the heart. And as we breathe into that part of ourselves, it opens us up, connects us heart to heart, soul to soul, knowing that the one quality that can really help us here to always remember that we are divine beings, to always follow our heart's knowingness, our inner wisdom, is our courage. And in this class, we know that everything we need to know and learn about living courageously will be given to us as we need it, from each other, with each other, and through each other. And we are grateful. And so it is. Well, I'm so happy to see everybody. And this is a wonderful class. And some of you, if you did hear my talk at Helping Parents Heal, I was talking about how we need courage. And especially when we're facing, oh, heck, we're all facing something. Doesn't matter what it is, but we're all going through things here on Earth because it's the Earth School. And so it is true that the thing we need to get through all of this is courage. So the way I wanted to start tonight was, since it's basically kind of a small group, I thought we could do a 1-minute introduction, everybody. Just quickly tell who you are, where you are, and why you're in this class, what you hope to get from it. And if you want to just share for a very brief time a little bit about your story and what brought you to these kinds of classes, that would be awesome too. And then we'll jump in with our topic and our discussions and all the other good stuff. So, well, I guess I'll start with me. I'm Sue Frederick, and I think I know most of you, but some of the names I'm not sure I recognize. So I'm Sue Frederick, and I'm an ordained Unity minister. Woohoo! The reason I'm whooping it up is that it was 4 years of long, hard school, and I graduated in June. And I'm just so grateful that I made it. And several of you here were part of that journey with me. And big shout out, especially to Gloria and Skipper. So thank you all. And it takes it takes, a village to get somebody through Unity ministry school. So I'm just very grateful that I made it, and hopefully the rest of my life I'll be using all the beautiful Unity principles to help people wherever they struggle, wherever they hurt. And tonight, I know that some of you have lost loved ones, some of you are grieving, and others have gone through similar, very intense challenges. And I think as we kind of share those stories, that's how we talk about courage. And, for me, my husband died in my arms when I was 29. He died of cancer. And that really launched me on a journey of spiritual growth and spiritual awakening. And as I look back at those 40 years since that happened, I see so many choice points that I came to that it really took a courageous leap of faith, so to speak, a trusting in the divine order of universe to jump in and do it, including deciding to become an ordained Unity minister, starting that school when I was 66. That took a big leap of faith and lots of courage. But I think the thing we're going to learn talking about all this, that it's those most courageous acts that we take that give us the greatest benefits and the greatest growth. So on that note, let's hear from Janet. Janet, do you want to unmute?
Hola.
There you are.
I'm Janet. I currently live in southern Ecuador, and I took a leap of faith to move here a couple of years ago, knowing no one and never been here before. And I've grown some, and I'm familiar with Sue's work over the years, and was inspired by to be reminded of the courageous of courage. I'm here to be reminded of courage, because sometimes I feel like such a chicken.
Oh, honey, for you to pack up and move to Ecuador by yourself, don't you ever call yourself a chicken. That is so courageous. I mean, I briefly in my early 30s, when I was grieving, I moved to Mexico, and even though I could speak a certain level of Spanish, it's hard. It is very hard living in a country other than the one you've grown up in. So I admire anybody who does that. Thank you. Mary Ellen.
I'm here because I met Sue 3-4 years ago, and I've definitely followed her, worked with her, and her Divine Lens is one of my go-to books for when I need a little courage. And my story is just basically the last 8 years I've been the caregiver for my husband who had a stroke, and it's all the transition of having to let go of that, and it's a process. But I would not be here if not for, like Gloria knows, the Course in Miracles support group. I've been doing that for 3 years, and it's the spiritual food that gives me the courage to, as I always say, by the grace of God, go I one more day.
Yeah. Well, my heart is with you because I've been on part of this journey with you, and I've just seen how brave and strong you are and how you have had to have courage every single day of it. And I'm so glad you're with us.
Thank you.
Okay, Gloria.
I've been on Unity and Course in Miracles and that for, probably 15 years. And I'm not courageous enough to speak my truth a lot of the time. I'm a people pleaser. So, and my husband is a good example. When he, I just kind of bow down to him, let's say. And I'd like to get more courage to stand up for.
I love hearing you say that, because you are so powerful in your quiet way, though, Gloria. I hope you know that. I mean, your husband has all that charisma and stuff, but you have this fierce, quiet, amazing presence. And I think a lot of us women can relate to being with charismatic men who, I mean, the fights that Jean and I have had about how when we're out in a group, his voice is so loud and everything that if I start to speak and he starts to speak, I'm completely drowned out, And so I've learned I'm speaking. What is it that Kamala Harris said once? She said in a political thing, she said, I'm talking, or something.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And a lot of women feel that way, Gloria. You know, it's just,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
it's just the world is tilted in favor of loud, powerful men. But we're changing that. We are changing that. And there's also to honor you and your truth. You know, there's a great truth and a great courage in quiet truth. We don't always have to be talking all the time and be the life of the party. And just when it's our turn to speak, we can just have those words of wisdom that everyone goes, wow. And that's how we can be courageous to speak our truth. And you know that. I'm so glad you're with us.
Thank you.
Joanne, tell us who you are, sweetie. Do you need help unmuting?
Nope, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm fairly new to Unity. I've been following, I thought I was going to be moving out to Santa Fe, and I was following Unity at Santa Fe and went there this summer and realized, no, I think I'm staying right here in Phoenix. I had a really big move, and you're going to laugh now because it wasn't from Ecuador. I went from Cave Creek to Phoenix.
That takes courage.
Truly, I left a lot behind, and I knew I was leaving a lot behind. My mom passed in October of 2019, and she lived with me for 20 some odd years. So it was releasing a lot.
Yeah.
And my saying, what got me, two things got me through. One was I kept saying to myself, jump and the net will appear.
Yes.
And I'm meeting, I want to meet like-minded people, so I'm here. I like the name of the course.
Yeah.
And the other, I had this little elephant. When I was packing, I found this little stone elephant. And when I just couldn't do it anymore, I just would grab that elephant, I'd hold him close and say, okay, how does one eat the elephant? And I just keep going, just one more little box, whatever it was, I would just keep going.
Oh, Joanne, my heart is with you. You know, do you know that in the Hindu traditions in India that the elephant represents the sacred deity of Ganesha, the remover of obstacles?
Yeah.
So whether you knew that or not, you were calling on that beautiful spirit to help remove any obstacles to your courageous move.
And I didn't know that. And it doesn't sound like a big move, but honest, it
Oh,
was.
no, it is.
It was and it
because-
is for me. I'm still in the
Yeah.
transition.
And, you know, anytime we pare down, it's
Yes.
painful. It takes
Mhm.
courage. It takes faith. And especially many of us here have had to, pare down from our family homes where we raised our kids. And that can be extremely painful and extremely hard. And so I'm very grateful. That's a strange noise we're hearing. So hopefully whoever that is, you can mute yourself. But a move is always a courageous act. So whether it's to Ecuador or Phoenix or Cave Creek, so we applaud you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's see where we are here. Oh, these names are moving all around now. So Catherine, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kathy Volsick,
Mhm.
and this is new to me. I was introduced to this course by my sister-in-law, Lydia, who might be more familiar.
Yeah.
And so this is a
Mhm.
learning experience for me
Mhm.
and just new experience.
Well, I'm really glad you're with us, Kathy. And where do you live?
In Michigan, Rochester, Michigan.
Oh, very cool. Well, I'm so glad you're with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's go to Lydia because Lydia's connected to you. So Lydia, do you want to say hello?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Lydia Glaboda, and I'm also Michigan, Huntington Woods. And I was drawn to be honest with you, I kind of just went with my intuition. I just said, hey, I'm going to take a leap. I'm going to try,
Yeah.
I heard Sue speak as you were speaking about earlier at Helping Parents Heal.
Yeah.
and so I was very drawn to, your message and what you had to share. And so, yeah, I saw your course and I thought it would be a nice gateway into learning more and connecting,
Yeah.
with others. So here I am.
I'm so
And I
glad.
so I thought maybe my sister-in-law would also enjoy and benefit from this. So I
Aw,
said, I kind of pulled her along.
that's so good. Well, we welcome you with open hearts. It takes
Thank you.
courage to come to a class. It takes courage to show up on Zoom. It takes courage for all of that. So we honor you. And then let's see here. Marcia Brooks is here. Marcia, do you want to say hello?
Hi to everybody. I'm sorry I took a nap, fell asleep, and set my alarm and slept through it.
You don't
It's,
have to be sorry.
I'm glad to be here. It's almost 10 o'clock here where I am.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm very happy to be here. I've taken Sue's classes before and they've always benefited me. So
And Marcia, are you doing okay? Because I know the last time we talked, you had been having some, I don't know if you guys know Marcia from other classes, but she's truly one of the most courageous women I've ever known. And she's recovered from a stroke and she's doing so well. So that's pure courage. And then I was just hoping that all those other medical things that were popping up, are you doing better with all that, Marcia?
not really. I'm having surgery on Tuesday.
Oh, baby. Well, I'm glad you told us. I'll be praying for you and holding you in prayer. We all will be.
Thank you so much.
And when will you be home from that surgery?
Well, the good news is it's outpatient, so I will be home Tuesday evening.
Good.
My daughter is coming from Seattle on Saturday, so that's the good news.
Mhm.
But when I was relearning to walk after the stroke, what I did was I would use my toes to help balance myself and grasp the floor, and I now have hammer toe.
Aw.
It's a surgery to
Boy, life in the physical body is just an epic sometimes.
and I have really thought that it's like, oh boy, it's like if it's not one thing, it's another.
Right.
But
Well, our heart is with you so much. I love you so much, Marcia. And so I will definitely be praying. And do you think you'll be able to be in class next week, you hope, or no? Or
hoping, yes, I am hoping to be in class next week. That's my plan. We'll see.
all right, good. Well, good. I'm so glad you're with us, baby.
Thank you.
Talk about courage. Battling any kind of physical thing just takes tremendous courage. Let's see, who have we not heard from here? Kathy Pinnell? Kathy, are you here, sweetie?
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
Hey, so yeah, I'm in Arizona in Peoria, and I've been a member of the Unity of Phoenix community since 2016.
Mhm.
I've been wanting to take one of your courses, Sue, for a while, and this one popped up, and it's relevant for me right now because I'm trying to push myself into a new direction, and I'm fearful of doing it. I retired 2016 and have gone back to work. And the work I'm doing is driven financially, but not from really my heart. And there's some other things I'd rather do that are more heart driven. So I'm working towards that. And I just want to find the inner strength to get over. I guess it's kind of the leap in the net will present itself that I'm trying to get myself to that point.
Well, we can all relate to that. And career is certainly a place where courage is required. And all of us have hit many reinvention points. And I don't know if you know this about me, but what launched my journey to do the work I do today is that I had been a magazine editor, journalist, and newspaper journalist for many years. And when I was a single mom in 1999, I'd been promoted up to be VP of content for big health websites and had this big secure job. And all of a sudden the .com world crashed, and I was a single mom with a mortgage to pay and couldn't get a job anywhere. I was turning 50 and everything had changed in the world. And it was my dark night of the soul where I would say, who am I? And really, what is my life and work and my purpose? And my inner self and my God consciousness said, it's the thing you do every day and give it away for free. Help people with intuition, guide them spiritually, do numerology. I did that with my friends, my staff, everybody, and they all loved it. And I had to have the courage to go, that's my heart's work. And somehow I have to make that how I make my living. And that was 22 years ago. And when you take a leap like that, I can just promise you, Kathy, that it pays off in amazing ways. And it does eventually make you okay financially, even if it's the path less traveled. And I wrote a whole book about it called I See Your Dream Job. And you can get that on Amazon if you'd like.
I would like, thank you.
Yeah, it's a big, courageous act to change career. It really is. Boy, I spent enough years helping people. I still do. I do sessions every day with people, and they're either grieving and they want me to help them understand their soul agreement with their departed and connect to them, or they are trying to figure out their purpose here and their soul mission. And so that is always connected to career. And those are the things that most of my clients are talking about with me. So
Perfect.
I honor you.
Just what I'm looking for. Thank you.
All right. And then let's see, Marilyn, we heard from Marilyn? Gosh, Marilyn, let me help her unmute maybe.
There I am.
Marilyn,
Sorry.
is that you, babe?
It is.
Hey.
I had technical difficulties. So yes, I'm Marilyn. I'm in Phoenix. I've recently had my husband die, and I'm trying to find my path in life.
And how
So
long
that's why I'm
ago?
here.
Marilyn, how long ago did he cross?
8/28 of this year.
Oh, you mean like 2 months ago?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
sweetheart. Well, we are definitely holding you in our hearts and in our love. You are in that raw grief, that painful raw grief. And that, as we all know, is a courageous walk. It's just courageous to get up in the morning when you're in that state. And we hold you in so much love and light, and knowing also that your husband is aware of your great courage and is watching you and is proud of you for trying and continuing on with your life. And so we
Yes.
bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then let's see. Have I talked to, no, Taylor. Taylor, say hello, sweetie.
Hi, I'm in the Seattle area. I started being a spiritual person like 2 years ago. Before that, I wasn't connected with any religion or spiritual side. So I've been growing and learning and developing in that area. In July of this year, I met one-on-one with Sue, and it was really good to focus in and figure out what my purpose and direction in my career should be. And then I've just been on the Sue train ever since. I just like taking her classes.
I love you so much, Taylor. I'm so glad you're here. I was so happy when you had reached out and said, you know, if I have to miss one, is it okay? And I was like, heck yeah, girl, get in this class. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if you have to miss one. I want you here. So I'm so glad to see your face. Thank you, sweetie. And I think if there's anybody we haven't heard from, please speak up now. Who is that?
Pam.
Oh, Pam. Pam, say hello, Pam.
Hi, Pam. My name is Pam. I'm from Phoenix. And I have just been, the past year, over a year now, has been an incredible journey. And I lost my dear beloved sister. I was caregiver for her, and she was my best friend and teacher. And going through stuff, I'm coming across all kinds of messages from her, and it's amazing. But the message that resonates now with me is unity. Years and years ago, Linda and I, my sister and I, had gone to Christmas Eve candle lighting service, and she had two sayings wrapped around the candle. I thought, why did she get two? You know, you're only supposed to get one. And I realize now the other one was for me for now, because I found it. And what it said, it didn't pertain then, but it pertains to me now. And it's, I begin my life anew. And I'm doing that. I retired recently, hadn't intended to, but so I lost that. It was a joy in my life, and I lost that, and a purpose. And I lost my best friend of 25 years, 3 months before I lost my sister. I had two friends move, and one just recently, just a couple of months ago. And I mean, the list goes on. I mean, I can't even, nor do I want to remember each one. But it's been one day at a time. Or like I had written, 1 hour at a time, depending on the day. And putting one foot in front of the other and putting a life back together. It's like I lost my social support. I lost my support system. And I thought, okay, where do I feel nourished? And I feel nourished and most alive and most me when I'm connecting on that soul level you talked about, Sue. When I can connect on that, and I know there's more to this life, and seeing it. I mean, it's been, I get these blessings that have been amazing, that kind of keep me going. You know, it's like, okay, all right, I have a purpose, and you know, we're just, and that's where the courage, and that's where the faith. It's a journey of faith.
It is. It's a journey of faith in the goodness and the divine order of this universe, even when it doesn't seem that way.
Right. And you don't necessarily see it. And
that's right.
But then things show up, and things have been happening, and they have been unbelievable. But at the same time, the most recent thing, which came out of the blue, and I think it came out of the grief. I think it was a very traumatic ending with my sister. It was really hard, but she was so, and her spirit was so strong and beautiful that whole time. We never thought that that was it. But it was. So it's been quite a year. And 2 months ago, I wound up in the hospital. I had a stroke.
Oh, baby.
So I always had low blood pressure. It's like, where did this come from? I didn't even think that it was. I mean, I fell over, but it's like, somehow I thought, you know, if I just relax, and I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. And wound up in the hospital, wound up in rehab. And I've just been out 2 weeks. And
our hearts are just with you, because all these stories, you've been through grief and through a health condition that takes so much courage. You know, this is an extraordinary group, and I always believe groups come together on purpose. There's nothing random. And I know that something that somebody shares in these 3 weeks and something you share is going to help all of us. And we all walk slightly different journeys, but they all require open-hearted courage and faith in the goodness of this universe, even when we're facing devastating tragedy. And the other thing I want to encourage you with is that life has cycles of reinvention. And you all know this, that life doesn't have just this one happily ever after, path to it. It has things are going great, up, reinvention point. Things are building back up, getting better, things are great, up, reinvention point, because we're meant to constantly grow and change. And when we face devastating loss, it is always a huge reinvention point. Just like you're saying, it is really a new life. So we honor you on that journey. So I just, have I heard from Joanne? Have I heard from everybody? Joanne, did you speak up? I can't remember.
I can always speak again. Yeah, I'm the one who did the big move from Cave Creek to Phoenix.
Ah, right.
Thank you.
All right, so let me take a drink of water. Hold on. So I'm going to ask you some questions to discuss with the group. But first, I want to give you my sort of a few points that I feel are important about courage. And don't worry, I'm not going to do a long lecture. I just want to share a few things. The word courage comes from the Latin root word cor, C-O-U-R. I talked about this at Helping Parents Heal, and that word means heart. Don't you think it's fascinating that the word courage is connected in Latin to the word cor, that means heart, because courage comes from the heart, doesn't come from our monkey minds. Our monkey minds are always going to go, hey, don't do anything scary. You got to stay alive. Be careful. Don't spend any money. Don't go anywhere dangerous. And that's the ego, because the ego's job is just simply to keep us alive in our physical bodies. And so the ego will always give you the messages of fear and the messages of closing the heart and just being safe. But meanwhile, you have your soul speaking to you, your divinity, and your courageous heart and your soul are always telling you, hey, God is in this universe. I am in God. God is in me. I am always guided. I am always protected, even in my moments of pain. And as I trust that, and as I take my leap of faith to the next phase of my learning journey here and open my heart, I trust that I will be brought to the right circumstances exactly as I planned for my soul growth. And I love what Unity says. The metaphysical meaning of courage, as Unity teaches, is a spiritual quality that enables one to remain poised and centered in God amidst great difficulties and danger. Now, I'm just going to read that again because I think that's so important. A spiritual quality that enables us to remain poised and centered in God amidst great difficulties and danger. That is the ultimate recognition of what courage is, because if we are trusting that there is a higher loving consciousness that we are part of, whether we call that God or God consciousness or higher self, whatever words you're comfortable with, if we trust that that's how this universe runs, then our only solution to crisis, our only solution to grief and loss, our only solution to anything we face, from career reinvention to a huge health challenge, is we look at those circumstances and we go, okay, and then we turn inward and we go to that meditative place where we are saying, I trust in the goodness and godness of this moment. I surrender to the lesson of this challenge. Please, divine guides, show me my way through this. And that to me is a prayer that is always answered, that we are always lifted up to see it from a new view whenever we make that request. And I remember when I was a child growing up, and I grew up Catholic, and a lot of the Catholic stuff was wonderful when I was growing up. A lot of those beautiful rituals and First Communion and all of that stuff was so sacred. But they also taught the punishing God story, and the punishing God story made us feel like we shouldn't be courageous, because if we did anything wrong, we were going to go to hell. And often that shuts down a lot of young people's hearts from an early on place, where they feel like, well, this is not only a scary physical world, but if I do anything wrong, I'm going to end up in hell or punished by God. So I think that the way we view God or God consciousness is so important in our ability to be courageous. And, you know, I work with grieving people all the time, and I'll tell you, the ones who can instantly start looking for the light, start looking for a connection, a sign from their departed, start looking for a meaning and a purpose, are the ones who do believe that there is some form of a goodness running this universe, not a father in the sky, but a consciousness of love that we have all agreed to be part of. And so whatever your daily spiritual practice is, if you can find 10 minutes just to sit and do either quiet meditation, I teach a mantra meditation that I think is very helpful for quieting the mind and opening the heart, or do affirmative prayer saying, you know, I affirm that I'm a divine being who came here on purpose, and that this challenge that's appearing in front of me is perfectly designed for my soul's highest growth and the highest growth of all. And I surrender to the lesson with grace and love. Or we can say, please lift me up into the ultimate wisdom and spiritual awareness of the highest level of God consciousness. Help me see the meaning and purpose of this. And that is always answered. So when I was a child, my grandfather, who was an amazing man in my life, he was a very courageous man. He was talking to me one night. Often late at night, I couldn't sleep. I'd have nightmares and things. And he would talk to me, and we were sitting in Long Beach, my favorite place in Mississippi when I was a child. And the moonlight, the full moon was out, and the light was shining in through the window. And he put his hand up in the moonlight, and he said, you see that light? Put your hand in that light, Sue. And I put my hand in that light. And he said, that light is called perpetual light. It always exists. And that's what God is. And I just, from that moment on, and I was probably only like 7 or something, I knew that that was true, that that's what God is, perpetual light. And we might be sitting in a dark corner of the room, but we can find our way to find that perpetual light and put our hand in it, put our heart in it, and know that that's how we move through. There's another definition here from Unity that I also love. It says, courage is the realization that the Almighty God of the universe is a spiritual presence, which is constantly striving to express in and through us and fill us with fearlessness that is beyond description. Isn't that beautiful? Fearlessness that is beyond description. Don't we all need that? Don't we all need that in the world for all these crazy times the world is going through? Don't we need it in our personal lives? Because we're all going through something. That's the journey of the human story. And I know that every time I've gone through grief and loss, you know, it's that courage to get out of bed the next day. It's that courage to seek a higher meaning, a different story that will help me keep going. Or if I face a health crisis, it's the same thing. The courage, like I think it was someone was saying tonight, you know, the courage to just get up and keep breathing and take one step at a time. And actually that reminds me, when Paul died and I was 29, my very close girlfriend at the time had lost her boyfriend years ago in a climbing accident. And And she said to me, she said, really what it is in the first few weeks and months, it's simply getting up and putting one step in front of the other. And doesn't matter if you're just kind of being a robot, but you just start trying. And as you start trying, slowly, your heart comes back to you, and slowly things have meaning and purpose again. And those words of wisdom helped me so much in those dark times of my early grief. So I hope they will help any of you tonight. Let me see. I have more good quotes here. I just want to read Eric Butterworth, one of my all-time favorite. And if any of you guys are looking for inspiration, you have to go to Amazon and get a book called Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. I even teach a class in this, and I'm just now realizing I'm going to pitch that class again to Unity of Phoenix for this year, because this Eric Butterworth book and this class will change your life. But all through his book, he's reinterpreting Christianity and Jesus's life from this higher metaphysical point of view that Unity sees. And he writes, courage is fundamental to getting to know who you are and to getting to discover the power within you. And that's the thing. We all have this tremendous power of God within us, not outside of us, within us. And that it takes courage to look within enough to embrace and find our own godness inside of us. And we all hit moments of reinvention. And so this is when we have to decide, if I am part of God and God is part of me, and this is an all good, all God universe, I choose to believe that. And so I choose to have the courage to keep moving step by step. Nothing gives us such courage and strength as the realization that the great God of this divine universe is a perpetual spiritual presence within, constantly guiding us, providing wisdom and love, and urging us forward to live our brave lives. That's more from Eric Butterworth. Just beautiful book. Go get it today or tomorrow if you can on Amazon. It's worth it. Another one of my favorite metaphysical writers is Emily Cady. And her book, my favorite book of hers, is called Lessons in Truth. And she was very close to the founders of Unity at the end of the 18th century and 1800s. She wrote Metaphysical Truths, and she was a woman. And this was, before women had much power. She was a homeopathic physician, and she wrote spiritual books, and she helped kind of create some of the founding ideas of Unity. And she said, if we have the courage to persist in seeing only God in everything, even in human wrath, everything shall eventually be turned to love for us. If we continue to have the courage to see only God in everything, even human wrath, everything will be turned to love for us. So these quotes just open my heart and inspire me. I hope that they help you too, because I know some of you are facing some very tough times right now. And so I think I have one more I wanted to say. This is something I want you all to do for this class. We're going to keep courage journals. You've probably all had gratitude journals and all other kinds of journals that you've kept. But in this class, I want you to have a courage journal. And in that journal, I want you to ask yourself things like, when in my life have I demonstrated great courage, and how did I find that courage? And then how did that courageous act serve me? And if we go back and review our life and we go, oh yeah, that time when I was, when I was 25, this is true. And one of my first boyfriends broke my heart, left me for another woman, and I felt so worthless. I was 25. What did I know? But I thought it was the end of the world. And so I decided to sign up for a Hurricane Island Outward Bound course, which in the 70s was this big act of courage. And I had to live on a boat out on the coast of Maine for 26 days and learn to row and learn to be dropped off on an island by myself. The whole thing was about courage and overcoming fears. That 26-day course in June of 1976 changed my life forever, because every day I woke up terrified of whatever physical activity we were doing that day. And every single day, sometimes we had to run and jump off a 70-foot cliff on Hurricane Island. And I remember this teacher saying to me as I was standing there terrified about to go, he said, "Feel the fear and do it anyway." And those words have carried me through a lot, because it's not like we don't feel fear. Like if you say, oh, somebody's courageous, oh, wow, they don't have fear. That isn't true. Courageous people are the people who feel the fear and do it anyway, because the heart says we have to do it anyway. So ask yourself and write in your journal this week, when have I felt that great courage and taken a brave act in my life? And it may be divorcing your husband. It could be any number of things that took tremendous courage. And how did that serve me? And how did I find that courage? And as you review that, it'll help you today. And then another question I want us to talk about tonight is, when have I not been courageous, but maybe I should have been? And how did that impact my life? And often that impacts our health as well. Another good question for your journal is, what part of my life now demands courage to make it better? What part of my life now demands courage to make it better? And also you can think of it as courage to love, courage to have a relationship where you bravely love, even though we all get hurt in relationships and there is no perfect love here on earth. Are we having the courage to simply love somebody fiercely, to love somebody unconditionally, no matter how they behave? That's a courageous and beautiful act. Another thing is, if you've lost someone you love, do you have the courage to trust that they exist in the divine realms and they are trying to help you, and that they're trying to give you signs, and they're trying to communicate with you and lift you up? It takes courage to believe that, because that's not a mainstream belief. And that's why Helping Parents Heal inspires me so much, because it's thousands of grieving parents who've decided to tiptoe their way into the exploration of communication with their beautiful child. And the courage to do that is astounding, because all the world will tell you, oh, that's woo-woo, poo-poo to the woo-woo. And don't believe that stuff. It's hocus pocus. I mean, Carol Allen, who's one of the important leaders of Helping Parents Heal. I adore Carol. She lives here in Phoenix. She said that she had grown up Catholic, and when her 17-year-old son died suddenly on a motorcycle accident, her Catholic friends and family, like, she would say to them, I think I see Tyler. I think he's communicating with me. And they would go, oh, don't listen to that. That's the work of the devil. Or they would say, only gypsies believe in stuff like that. And I remember she said that when she decided to go to her first Helping Parents Heal meeting to see what this was all about, trying to connect to her beautiful son, that she looked around and they were all normal, happy people, and she said, she called her husband and said, they're not gypsies, they're normal, happy people. So we're not gypsies when we try to communicate with our beloveds. We are just normal, happy people who know that life is eternal, that the physical body dies, but that the soul and the spirit are eternal. And we have the courage to open our hearts to those possibilities. We also have to have the courage these days to see God the good in everyone, even when they're misbehaving in the world, you could say. And I think that might be one of the most courageous acts we're all called to, because we all know these are terrifying times of politics and everything that's happening in this world. And I'm 71 and I've lived a long life, and I've never seen things appear to be in such difficulty as I see now in the world. And so it really takes courage to look at all of that and go, God the good is still running this universe somehow. And somehow all of this is about bringing up into the light what needs to be healed. And, we are a collective consciousness group. And what that means is, if one of us lifts into the light, it helps all of us lift into the light of understanding and wisdom. And if one of us goes into hatred and darkness, we're all affected by that. And so the feelings we hold in our hearts towards each other in these troubled times, those feelings matter. We can't just be hating on each other because we disagree with each other. I think that's one of the big lessons of these times, is that we have to get beyond our ideas and our beliefs and keep finding the soul to soul courage to love each other. So on that note, I would like to spend a few minutes with us, see if we can maybe go into some, let's try to do it as a group, because I think it's a small enough group. Would anyone in particular like to share a story, and quickly, when have I demonstrated great courage in my life, and how did that serve me? Just as an example of what we're talking about here. Oh, I'm gonna have to call on somebody, it looks like. Mary Ellen, come on, girl. Oh, you got to unmute, sweetie. Can you get it? Here, let me try to help you. I
was going to say Joanne's move when she said she went from Cave Creek to Phoenix. For me, the courage was literally, I would say, in a 6 weeks time frame, seriously getting rid of 30 years worth of stuff and a house. And just the sheer spiritual, the divine order that each day, by the grace of God, go I, and how the miracles, the things that you just could not fathom, but it was like it had to be done. Mm-hmm. This was the path. Mm-hmm. And the letting go. I mean, I've never cried so much, I swear, in the 67 years. Yeah. I cried more in that time frame, because it was, if I would have stayed in that mindset, it's like my life is over, because everything that's familiar is gone. Yeah. And Mary Ellen, I hope it's okay just to share that you did this because your beautiful husband, who had a stroke, was put into a care facility, right? And you had to sell the house. After 7.5 years, yeah. I couldn't do it any longer. And the 2-story house had to go, and but it was that, I cannot believe in a 6 month, 6 week, not 6 months. Yeah, 6 weeks. Yes. I mean, our hearts are with you, because not only were you having the courage to say, this has to be done, even if I don't want to do it, even if I'm too tired to do it, even if it's too overwhelming, but I'm going to do it. And did you find like a rhythm to it? Like, what was your motivation every day? What would you say to yourself or do to help you do it? What was it? It was the river analogy of the resistance that the river flows, that it was just flow like water. It was Suzanne's, the heart wolf's message. It was the flow like water, peace and tranquility, flow like water. There's boulders. There's constantly going to be obstacles in this process, but the water will find its way. And can I just hang in there and just one more day, one more day, one more day. And like I said, the expectations were dropped. And so the help came from places that I wouldn't have expected it. And where you think your family or your, who's supposed to be doing that, you had to let go of all of it. But it just, divine order. I mean, meant to be.
And how do you feel now that you've done that courageous act and your life is totally different?
One more day by the grace of God. It's still an ongoing process, but I can see the thread through it all.
Yeah.
You know, it's like my mom lived to be 90 something, and she used to always say, that's where the meant to be came from, is that the older you get, the more you'll look back on your life and you'll go, you know what, that tragedy that I can see now. And when you're younger and she says something like that, you're like, oh yeah, right. You roll your eyes. But now that I'm older and living in Sun City, it kind of makes sense.
And I'm also, you know, one of the women who's in this class who I adore, and she couldn't make it tonight. Her name is Gail, and some of you know her, and she lost her beautiful son, Jake. And many of us know Gail because she's usually in my classes, and she'll be here next week. But, you know, Gail talks about that moment also of when her son died suddenly, and just the courage to even just the next day decide to get out of bed, you know. And now if you meet Gail, and you'll get to meet Gail next week, you know, her life, she's doing a podcast. She was on my podcast, and she's working with other grieving moms, and she's just an amazing shining light. And Jake, her beautiful son, gives her the most gorgeous signs. And I'm not going to take the time to show you guys, but on the story that blew me away was on the anniversary of Jake's departure. They call it the angelversary. She was honoring that day and going to the cemetery, and she had a good cry. And by the way, crying is courageous. It's not, you know, many of us women grew up being told that if we cried, we were being a baby, and that is so wrong. It's courageous to feel the pain in your heart. It's courageous to let it come out in tears and in crying. But she was in the cemetery, at the cemetery, crying, and she said to Jake, I'm really having a hard time on your anniversary. I really need a sign that you're with me, that your soul continues. I need a really clear, strong sign. And gosh, I wish I could see if I got this picture to show you guys. Let me just see if I could find it. So she gets on the highway to go back home. Darn, I don't have it. She gets on the highway to go back home. And how do I stop sharing now? I've messed myself up here because now I don't know how to get out of share. Okay. Let me stop sharing. There we go. So she gets on the highway to go home, and this big truck, this enormous truck, pulls up in front of her. And at first she's just angry. She's like, how dare you pull in front of me? Like she had to screech her brakes to slow down, and she was kind of yelling at the truck. And then she looked at the back of the truck, and these huge words were across called Jake Transport. Have you guys ever seen a huge Jake Transport truck? Never. She still has never seen such a thing. And that's the truck that pulls in front of her the minute she gets on the highway. And if you believe in divine order, you know that somehow in the quantum physics of time and space that our linear minds can't grasp or understand, Jake said, all right, Mom, is this good enough? And I have that slide because I've used it in some of my presentations. And so, you know, the souls that depart are trying to help us in so many ways. And often we just like Gail could have just been angry at that truck and not really paid attention to what it said, you know, and she would have missed this amazing sign. But anyway, so thank you so much for sharing. And I'd like to hear from another person about a courageous act in their life and how it served them. Jump in, don't raise your hand, just start talking. And you might have to unmute.
I'll go, I guess.
Yes.
This was about 20 years ago now. My son had gone to college in New Mexico. Las Cruces, and he got into marijuana. And some of his friends from Minnesota came down, and he proceeded to help them get some, and were caught. They were caught. The hardest thing I ever did was leave him in jail for a month in New Mexico. But I found the courage, and I made him own up to what he'd done and everything. And to this day, he's been fine. I mean, he's never, he doesn't believe in drugs or, stuff like that. And so that's the good that came out of it.
Yeah, and that's courageous for a mom to do something like that. It really is, because we all want to kind of indulge our children and love on them and everything, and sometimes that becomes enabling behavior. But very courageous. And so today you do realize, as you look back on that if you had maybe made a different choice, that things would not have gone so well.
Right.
And Gloria, how did you find the courage to do that?
Love, I guess. I loved him, and that's the only thing I could say, I guess, because I don't know where else it came from.
Yep. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I've worked with too many moms who've lost their beautiful children to overdose. And so I can say that I'm glad to hear that you never had to walk that journey, Gloria.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah.
So let's hear from someone else about a courageous moment and how it affected their life.
I'll talk about one. My mother, back in 2006, was diagnosed with lung cancer. She was diagnosed in February, and she transitioned in August. So the thing that I feel was courageous, I'm still not sure it was the right decision. It was meant to be the right decision. It was the last days. All of our family came here. My brother and sister brought their families out from Boston to be with her. And she was in the hospital, and she expressed a wish that she wanted to be at home. And I was very afraid of that, because I was worried about the care. She had a hospice, the Valley arrangement, but I just was not fully, we're not medical people, and I wasn't sure of how that was going to work. So I was afraid of it. And I remember she was in the hospital, and she looked at me and she said, we decided, you're going to stay in the hospital, you'll get the best care. And she said, you just can never get what you want. And I went out to my sister and I said, did you hear what Mom just said? And I said, I feel like maybe we need to try and make this work for her in her, her last days. So we decided to do that. And I went to the house and I waited for them. And honestly, it was somewhat terrifying, because I didn't know what we would be allowed, how to help her through the transition. We didn't want her to be suffering. And as I look back on it, it's the most difficult thing I've ever been through in my life, watching her go, because she was fearful and it was difficult. All of her family was there, her kids, her husband, and I'm not sure it was the best for her ultimately, but it was what I felt she wanted. I wanted to give her what I felt she wanted.
That was courageous love, Kathy.
And so I was very frightened of that when I went back and I said, let's try to do this and make it the best. And we did, and we loved her so much. And I still hope to this day that she understands that even though maybe that transition wasn't perfect for her, we all were there with our love and tried to comfort.
She knows that, baby. That's of course what when a soul is leaving, all that matters is the love, and they're not even in their bodies all the time when a soul is crossing like that. So don't think that just because it seemed maybe harder physically that she suffered, because probably she was in and out of her body and exploring in the divine realms. and not going through some of the suffering that you might have seen happening. So you were very courageous. And, you know, I'll just share this story about my dad, and because it kind of addresses what you're talking about. My dad was dying from lung cancer, and I wanted to bring him home and take care of him at home, but nobody else in the family felt that they could handle that. And I got poo-pooed out of that vote. And I even got poo-pooed out of the vote of putting do not resuscitate orders on his charts, because he was dying of lung cancer and I didn't want them doing CPR or something if he started to die. But the family couldn't agree on these things. So he was in the hospital, and he started to go downhill, and I knew that this day was going to be the day that he crossed. And so I was telling my family, I want to be with Dad. I want to help him leave his body, you know, without fear. And they said, no, it's your day to go home and take care of the grandkids. And I'm kind of the woo-woo black sheep of the family, as you can tell. So I got sent home to take care of the grandkids. And as soon as I got home, I sat down to meditate, because I've been meditating every day since the 70s. And it's kind of the only way I stay sane sometimes. So I sat down to meditate and I quieted my mind. And as soon as I closed my eyes and took a breath and quieted my mind, my father appeared in front of me so clearly, so visibly. He looked 30 years younger, happy and healthy, and he was joking around with me and making me laugh just the way he had done when he was 30 years younger. And we'd always call him, we'd say, Dad, you need to go to clown school. You know, you're such a goofball. And here he was behaving that way again. And at first in my meditation, I was like, Dad, you're such a goofball. And then, Dad, what are you doing here? And I kind of came out of my meditation and called the hospital. And my brother said, Dad just had a heart attack and they're doing CPR and it's chaos. And I said, no, he's not there. His soul isn't there. Don't worry. He's not struggling in that. He's already free. And he wanted to show me that he was free and happy. So I share that with you, Kathy, because never worry about what you might have witnessed in a death like that, because all that matters is the soul feels your love and they're free of the body. So you did the right thing. You absolutely did the right thing. All right. Well, I think what I want to do is send you home with your courage journals. So help, you know, I want your homework to be that you try to find answers in your journal. Just write a quick story about a time when you were courageous and how it served you and how you found that courage. And then a time maybe where you didn't act as courageously and how you wish you might have acted instead. And you can decide if you want to share these in class or not. You don't have to, but I think if you could write a little bit about that, you might find that very empowering and very healing. And the other thing is the fun homework is everybody has the homework of doing 3 courageous acts this week. And you can define a courageous act as simple as going up to, you know, a stranger in a coffee shop and saying, you look so beautiful. I love what you're wearing, or something like that. And just watch them light up. That's a courageous act. Or a courageous act is giving a phone call to somebody you know who's hurting or grieving, and you just want to offer them some comfort. Well, there's all kinds of different ways to do courage, but I'm sure you guys can come up with 3 courageous acts, and it would be very fun for us to share those next week in class. So any questions before we say goodbye? Questions, comments, insights? You guys are so quiet. Lydia, are you there, sweet Lydia?
Hi.
Hey,
I'm here.
so since I know you because we've recently done a private session together, and I know a little bit about your story, do you have a courageous thing you would like to share? And it could be the thing of what you wish you'd been more courageous about, or it could be something you did that was very courageous, and that'll be our parting story.
Okay. So the most courageous thing that comes to mind that I've done over the past 24 hours is I said, Kathy, you should come to this class with me. Because I wasn't sure if she would. I was like, should I do that? Shouldn't I do that? I'm not sure. Will she benefit? I don't know. So it took courage for me to say, I think you should come. And
So we need
are.
to hear from Kathy. Kathy, was that a good, courageous act? Are you happy you're here? You have to unmute. Let me see if I can help you here. Let's see.
No, I agree with Lydia. I'm always intrigued, and I think she's full of knowledge and wisdom. So any path she takes, I'm always willing to follow. So it is a pleasure. It's definitely a learning experience for me. I think much of the information is probably new, so it's a nice and positive experience.
She knows I like to go into the mystical and the, the woo-woo.
The woo-woo, yes.
Never poo-poo the woo-woo.
I love saying we're not going to poo-poo the woo-woo. We're going to woo-hoo the woo-woo. It takes courage to embrace the woo-woo, but the woo-woo is also science-backed, because there's a lot of quantum physics talking about how you can measure electromagnetic presence of the soul. There's a lot of research being done. If you watched the Helping Parents Heal conference, that's what a lot of the speakers were talking about. Dr. Gary Schwartz and Mark Anthony, and amazing people talking about near-death experiences, and just you can't read all that, listen to it, and think there's no such thing. So anyway, we're so glad you're here, Kathy, and we're so glad you're here, all of you. And on that note, let me just pray us out with a little woo-woo here. So let's close our eyes and open our hearts and lift ourselves up into that place of pure gratitude. Gratitude for the courage it took for everyone to show up tonight, for the courage it takes to look at our lives and see what we can do better, how we can live more courageously, the courage to say that I'm not perfect, but I'm a soul on a journey, learning exactly what I'm here to learn, and the courage to embrace the idea that God, consciousness, God the good, higher self, whatever words you put to it, run this all good, all God universe in divine order for all of us, all of our highest good, no matter how tragic or hard things may seem. And we are grateful for that awareness. And so it is. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. And I'll send you an email with the homework written in it, just to remind you.
Perfect.
Thank you, sweethearts. Love you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.